What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. Uh, if you're watching this on the replay, fast forward to like the 2 minute mark, um, and you'll get past the pleasantries. I was going to, I was gonna do this video as a video, but I am in California and I had to go pick up my kids, and just different stuff happened, which made it to where that was not a realistic option. So I wanted to get it out today though, and so that's why I'm doing this as a live. This is a crazy situation, man. Um I'm not gonna put the chat up on the screen because I got paperwork showing, right? Um but I do see you guys. Let me run through this. Number 7 in the building, Jojo AZ, I see you. Rob Finn, Mr. Gordio GS. Did Milk 74 cover this yet? Good question. I don't think so. What's up, Glenn? Shout out to Australia. Instater Pit. What's up, Shadow Pit? Good to see you. The devil, what's going on, brother? Yes, I do owe you a phone call too. So this is a disgusting story, man. This is the Hoover indictment that came out or that was announced a couple of days ago. I've seen some different channels do some content around it. I haven't really seen anybody break down the paperwork. And what's up, Oakland? Everything, I see you. I didn't really see. He should cover it. I didn't really see anybody else kind of break down the paperwork. I got my hands on it this morning. It is a lot of paper. It's 155 pages. I'm not going to read every page. I will be honest. There was a point in reading this that it got too disturbing for me to continue watching it. I'm going to say up front, fuck everybody in this indictment and anybody who thinks that any of them are cool or decent human beings. This is unacceptable, right? It says YouTube is not getting data from my stream. Hold on. This is just unacceptable shit, man. There's no two ways about it. And so I double check and make sure that this is working okay. Kind of a distraction or kind of a yeah, it's working just fine. My bad. Um, and so let me change this to live chat. It says that it says that no people are watching, but obviously there's people in the comments, so some of you guys are watching. It is what it is. Maybe my computer will catch up. Maybe it won't. Um, what's up, babe? Good to see you. High Power Fitness. What's up, man? So, yeah. I don't know how many people are watching. It looks like on my phone we got maybe like 25 or so. But it doesn't really matter. I want to get to this. Okay, thank you, number 7. I want to get to this content and kind of get through it. Here in Phoenix, if a S offender moves into your neighborhood, you get a letter showing the mugshot and charges and address. One moved close to me, and he was a pimp who held little girls hostage. Yeah. So I'm gonna say this up front too, man. I I have zero respect for pimps, even dudes that pimp adults. So let's break this into two categories. Okay. I think those who pimp adults are bums. Um, just personally as a man. I think they are the softest, weakest type of criminal that you'll find around the hood. I don't respect it. I don't think it's a hustle. Um, I think it's weenie shit, really. So that's just how I feel, right? I think, you know, I think pimps are bums. And some of the ones that I've seen, everything is for sale, right? Like they're not, uh, they're not reputable, man. They ain't shit. They're bums. Greg Padilla, good to see you, man. What's up, homie? Hang out, man. You don't got to give out the school name, but by any chance, does your son play Bella Vista this year? I'm not 100%. I'll have to check his calendar, which if I was to try to do that now, it would get me all thrown off, man. So I'm not 100% to be honest with you. Um, Hoover is predominantly black folks, right? They have a hood over there off of Figueroa. Hoover Gangster Criminals, I think is what they're called, or Hoover Criminal Gangsters, or whatever the fuck. Um, It's not a group I know much about, right? The only Hoovers I seen was when I was in prison about 99, I want to say, in Salinas Valley. There was a couple dudes there that was Hoovers. Um, those short dudes, and they started flying orange, and we didn't really understand why. I thought it was kind of odd. And then all of a sudden one day the rest of the brothers wasn't really feeling their presence, and they weren't allowed to hang out around the other brothers, and they just spun the lap on the track the whole time. They just walked the track. And uh and then at yard recall, some dudes went to make a move on them and didn't quite play out that way. And then we wound up going lockdown soon after that because somebody got blasted. I don't remember if it was us that did it or someone else. And I don't know whatever happened to him, to be honest. But that's my only real personal experience with Hoovers. And I have Milk 74 on my channel, right? But I don't feel like that necessarily counts. And so we we're gonna get into this paperwork, right? Barmeto, you made an interesting point about these dudes being able to kick it on a main line. I don't think so. I don't think so. I understand what you're saying. I think times have changed, man. And maybe we'll get to that a little bit. But let me get through this paperwork. So 11 people, 10 of them from Hoover, I think. One of them is not. The lead defender is a female, Lady Duck, Amaya Armstead. She's currently in state prison, I think, on some drug charges, but then now she's indicted on this. There's a rapper that's involved, P4K, Darrell Robinson, P4 Kelly. He he's got like over 1 million views and shit on some of his videos from a couple years ago. He's a rapper. He's also a piece of shit scumbag that was pimping, young girls. Uh, he's a blood, I think, or was a blood, because it seems like he's got some issues with his folks now. But I don't know. It's not necessarily my politics. So, anyways, let's get into this. And when I initially set out to do this video, um, I intended, like I do with other indictments, to have it be a cautionary tale, right? To see some of the strategies that the government uses in labeling folks as gang members or in prosecuting gangs, and kind of putting that in a context that maybe has application to the broader public. And that was my goal in this. And there is still some elements of that in this paperwork, uh, but also, I'll be very honest, I'm happy that these dudes are arrested, these guys and the girl. I'm glad that they're all locked up. I hope they never see the light of day again. I really don't ever say that. Um, I also don't come on here and talk shit about people, and but that's how I feel. Like, fuck these dudes and everything they stand for, in terms of this indictment, and anybody that thinks that this is acceptable, because it is not. And so, anyways, let's go through it. So they're indicted for a bunch of stuff. Among those things are sex trafficking of children or by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation of a minor for sex trafficking, sexual exploitation of a child. These are all things that you don't even really want to ever say on the internet. Here's the people that were busted. I'll read off their names, but I'm not going to go through the 27 nicknames. Amaya Armstead, Lady Duck, Keandre Young, Young Poke, Naziz Harris, Rich Off the Bitch, Avery Amoako, Hands, Jared Evans, J Money, Matthew Brooks, Buddha, Darrell Robinson, P4K, Jalen Phillips, Waymo, Brian Israel, Forloke or Figafo, Tajon Gray, Tiny, Tommy Crockham, aka Tommy Guns. Not the Suda Gang Tommy Guns, but the Hoover Gang Tommy Guns. Like I said, I'm not gonna read everything on here, right? Because and make sure you guys hit the like button too, man, please. Like I said, for some reason I can't see the numbers up here. It's kind of weird, but um I'm not gonna read everything in this paperwork. Like I said, it's 155 pages. If you want a copy of it, you can email me, Joshua@thehomiehangout.com, and I will email you the file. But this is just going through everybody's name. This is going through the history of the Hoover organization. If there are specific parts that you would like for me to read that I seem to be kind of zooming past, then just let me know, and just let me know, and I'll see what I can do. I'll stop and read it, but I don't think it's really necessary, to be honest. Let me see something real quick. So I haven't gone live on this platform in a long time, or using this stuff in a long time, and it's been kind of weird. And so I just want to make sure that this shit is coming through the way that it's supposed to be. So I apologize. Um, I will I will get right to this though. I just need to double check something real quick. Um, yeah, we good. All right, bet. Let's go. Enough of the bullshit. Let's go. 530 Nevada County. Saludos, Josh. Respects you, homie, from down south San Diego. Shout out San Diego. I appreciate you, Ivan. All right, so here we go. It talks about the Hoover organization. What's up, Eastside boyfriend? Talks about, they use Cash App to send money and Apple Pay. Background of the enterprise. So it gives a little bit of history of the Hoovers. The Hoovers were a criminal street gang formed in the late 1970s. Later became part of the larger West Side Crips umbrella. They eventually split into the Gangster Crips and the Neighborhood Crips. Hoovers aligned themselves with the Gangster Crips. From the late 70s to the early 90s, they were known as Hoover Gangster Crips, or HGC. To differentiate themselves from other gangs in the area and to establish their own reputation, Hoover's factions or sets dropped the Gangster Crip from their identity and became Hoover Criminal Gangsters, or simply Hoover Criminals. Several enemy gangs of the Hoovers also claimed Crip, and they said it didn't make sense for them to hold on to the Crip faction. Now, the government writes these narratives and these synopses. This is a Rico indictment number 7. I don't know how accurate it is. I'm not pretending that it is. I have seen breakdowns like this of criminal organizations and criminal enterprises that I am personally familiar with, and they get a lot of stuff wrong, and it's kind of cookie cutter. I'm assuming that's the same thing here, but I don't know for sure. That's part of the reason that I'm not getting all into it, because I don't even know if it's fucking accurate, right? The more sovereign Hoover's gang, this is notable stuff though. The more sovereign Hoover's gang identity gave rise to the especially dangerous Hoover mentality of being an everybody killer, or EBK, meaning that members will kill anyone or commit violence against anyone who stands in their way of making money or promoting the enterprise. This created an atmosphere of intimidation that allowed the Hoovers to operate with virtual impunity. So this is interesting, right? Because EBK, everybody killer, is not anything new. Right? It's a phrase that's been around for a long time. A lot of people claim EBK, so to speak. And so it's an example, though, of the government taking something that they probably heard on a podcast and fusing it into a federal indictment, right? I have a video coming up probably next week, but podcasts are a source of information for the federal government. And they do find things from podcasts that work their way into these narratives, right? So all it takes is somebody claiming to be Hoover that was on a show on the internet somewhere talking about, bro, we everybody killers, and boom, now they make it seem like that is some phrase unique to the Hoovers, right? That it gave rise to the especially dangerous Hoovers mentality of being an everybody killer. There's a lot of people that are EBK. But it's cautionary, right? Like this internet shit gets you caught up. Here's some of the graffiti. I don't really fucking care. It talks about who the rivals are and all this other stuff. And it was fun. Just to me, it was funny because they were like, the Hoovers claim territory in the city of Los Angeles, bound by Vernon Ave to the north. And it's funny. I just saw a hood vlog with some Crips claiming Vernon Ave, and 4 Extra be hollering off the back Vernon Ave all the time. So I don't know if these are exclusively Hoover's area, but. And so this just describes their territory, supposedly. Their different sets and subsets. Heard Northerners and Asian Crips use EBK. Absolutely. I've heard a lot of people use it. Some of the gangs that they're friendly with, again, I don't want to get into all that. I thought this was interesting. Hoovers wore Houston Astros attire in the color orange to show their membership and to make their presence in their territory known, to maintain a stranglehold on criminal activities therein. So if you in the hood somewhere and you dressed representing your neighborhood, your presence walking around can be interpreted as helping to maintain a stranglehold on the criminal activities around where you are. I know it sounds extreme, it sounds ridiculous. I guarantee there was people walking around that had H's and stars and were wearing orange that were not out there prostituting women and children. But they're just from the hood. But that's how the government is interpreting this, right? Um, and so again, just to be mindful. I know a lot of my audience is a little bit older, but maybe you have young people in your life or in your circle of influence, and shit gets messy, and the government is taking anything on social media. This could very well be the Instagram indictment. It, and when you look to the overt acts, which we'll get to, it's just Instagram. There's 90% of it, right? And then victims, talking. These were all pictures from social media of some of the people throwing up hand signs. So the government explains their hand signs. Again, graffiti, right? Each Hoover set had senior members. Obviously, the highlighting is shit that I did myself just so that I caught it to read it to you guys. Each Hoover set has senior members who could give orders to other members. The status of a senior member stemmed from work the Hoover had put in for the gang. Widely reputed members such as Defendant Armstead were considered trophies in the Hoover's gang. That is, some of the most active Hoover's members, and were permitted to give orders to other members in their set. Despite this, Hoover's members also worked individually to accomplish the Hoover's control of criminal activities in their territory. So it was kind of odd because I have heard trophies used to represent opposition, right? Like you get off on your ops, and that's a trophy. If you knock one down, that's a trophy. If you take something from them, sometimes people will call it a trophy. I don't know. We didn't have that language when I was young and gangbanging, but that's the context that I've heard it in. Apparently, the Hoovers use it a little bit different. Gangs on the internet, you locked up facts. What's up, Wesley Mitchell? South Bay in the building. And so yeah, but they put in work. Understand that the government definition of putting in work is any criminal activity. Okay, stealing a car, they will say is putting in work for the gang. So oftentimes we know that it tends to mean violence when people say it on social media, but the government will take anything and twist it and frame it in such a way as to advance whatever their goal is at the time. In this case, it is indicting these individuals. At times, various Hoover sets would have disputes or beef with one another, but when it was time to put in work on behalf of the gang, including committing crimes such as shooting at rivals, carrying out robberies, or extorting local businesses, the Hoovers came together under the concept that, quote, no one is bigger than the program, end quote, referring to the overall enterprise. No one is bigger than a program is, again, a common phrase that is used by a lot of people, some gang affiliated from all different gangs and some not. And it's just something I'm sure they heard it on a podcast, right? That there was somebody on No Jump or something. Hey, man, do you guys get along with the Hoovers over there and the Hoovers over there? Come on, man. Ain't nobody bigger than the program. When it comes down to it, we all going to rock with each other. Just that. Which seems innocuous. It seems harmless. You just talking on a podcast. Boom. Well, here you go. Here's a federal indictment that says that the Hoovers come together under the concept that no one is bigger than the program, which is referring to the overall enterprise. The enterprise is the people indicted here, right? For what they're indicted for. What's up, George Rogers? Good to see you. Older members of the gang will serve as mentors, referred to as big homies within the enterprise. If a gang member was under the wing of a big homie, that member took the moniker of the big homie, but as the little homie. Again, you on these podcasts talking about, oh man, that's the big homie right there. Now look, big homies are older members, right? And, oh, that's little such and such. Oh, okay, so that means that he's under the control and jurisdiction of big such and such. And then it goes on. They got tiny homies and infants and all kinds of, I think, kind of goofy shit, right? Like they took it a little bit far. I'm used to the big and little, but like infant, who wants to be called infant anything? Oh, what's up, Brody? A big infant rascal. I don't know. It seems silly to me, but none of, teach their own, man. It's a lot of gangbanging seems silly to me. It's supposed to. I'm damn near 50 years old. Some in the older generation of Hoovers lamented that the young generation lacked a code of conduct. Many of the older generation Hoovers believed that the younger generation resorted to gunplay or shootings far too quickly when a simple assault would suffice. But the concept of acting for the greater good of the Hoovers controlled. I guarantee this comes off a podcast, right? It's some old dude sitting around. Man, these youngsters is off the hook. They ain't trying to mind nobody. They ain't listening to nobody. Boom. Now it's in a an indictment. I don't think the FBI sat down with older Hoover members and were like, "Hey, what is your guys' philosophical beliefs on the younger generation of your gang?" This shit just comes off social media, right? And it winds up in these narrative parts of the document. See, this is just all the narrative. This is the story. The actual offenses come later, but they they create the story and they sell the story so that that influences the way that you view the offenses. And depending on how they tell the story, some things that maybe would not appear very criminal or very sinister on the surface, now in the context of this story, are crazy. Again, that's in general. In this case, the shit that they did is fucking crazy and it's disgusting and they should all burn in hell for it. But generally speaking, this is just cautionary in terms of the indictment process for quote unquote enterprises in general. Joe Below, what's happening? George Rogers, do you think the Rico Act will happen here in Denver with the Hoovers too? It depends on if they got them linked to shit that was going on there. I will say it's kind of interesting. Grape Street Crips come up in this indictment a few times. If I was a Grape Street Crip, I'd be nervous. The pattern of indictments tends to be if a gang gets indicted and an unindicted gang is mentioned a few times and there's some co-conspirator stuff that they're not identifying, man, look and see. I don't know. I'd be nervous. Talks about how they control sex trafficking. Look at that again, a bunch of idiots on the internet flashing all this money that they got from girls. Talking about it's a hustle. You bums. Um, the enterprise adhered to the rules of the game. See, and they make the game sound specific and unique. Like, man, this is the game for the Hoovers. The game is a phrase that's been thrown around for shit since the 70s, and it ain't always talking about pimping. The enterprise adhered to the rules of the game, which a pimp would teach any sex trafficking victim the pimp turned out. That is, introduce to sex work. Hoover pimps taught their victims to maintain absolute loyalty and often literally branding their victims with their monikers to claim them as chattel. A lot of you guys may be familiar with the word chattel because it's used to say chattel slavery, which is the form of slavery that the United States employed against black people being brought over here from Africa and the islands, right? It wasn't just the slavery that existed before, because there was slavery in the U.S. before chattel slavery, right? Or chattel slavery, however the fuck you say it. I know the word, but I know it from reading, not from listening. So I may not pronounce it right, but that is a different form of slavery than what existed before, where like you sell your services to people on a farm for 7 or 8 years and buy your way to freedom and that kind of shit. The chattel slavery is you're locked in. You are property. You are no longer human. That's what these people are doing to these women. A victim was required to remit, which means give up all proceeds from commercial sex dates to the pimp. A victim who did not or violated other rules of the game, referred to as being out of pocket, faced discipline, including assaults, berating, and public humiliation, withholding of affection, drugs, or food, draconian overtime hours, or firing. In exchange, a pimp was expected to provide protection from other pimps and johns, clothing, housing, food, and beauty services. Sex workers are required to have their hair and nails done at all times because their grooming was a status symbol that reflected on her pimp. Like tattle, but with this. Okay, thank you, Waterman Chris. I appreciate you. Thoughts on Tiny Smack being blamed? I don't even know about that. I know he claims Hoover, but I don't know anything about him being blamed. Um, to start, thank you though. So chattel slavery. Got it. To start working for a pimp, a victim was required to pay a choosing fee. That is a payment for the privilege to work for that pimp. Victims were taught once they chose a pimp, they were not permitted to speak to or even look at other pimps. They would face grave consequences for violating this rule. Similarly, if a victim attempted to leave her pimp, she was required to pay an exit fee or face grave consequences. What up, C-Web? I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Oh, yeah, off top. Yeah, I recognize you from over there. I knew I see your name from somewhere. Thank you. So, and I will, just so you guys know, if you're watching, stay tuned. I'm going to get into some of the specifics of their acts, and it goes into levels of detail that I think you guys will understand why I say fuck all these people and anybody that's cool with them. I really don't feel like there's any other rational way to interpret it. And we'll talk a little bit about what might happen to them when they go to prison and that kind of stuff. We'll get to that. Just let me get there. And I'm skipping a lot. Hoover Enterprise members also worked together to recruit new victims. Recruitment could occur on social media or in person and focused on vulnerable minor girls and young women, particularly those who have financial and or emotional struggles or have run away from home. To recruit sex workers, enterprise members utilized various methods of manipulation, including false promises of a luxurious lifestyle, intimidation, actual or threatened violence. Pimps plied their victims with various drugs that served different purposes. This is wild. For example, oxycodone tended to make victims more compliant, lowered their inhibitions, and kept them warm when soliciting dates on cold nights. Stimulants such as amphetamines could make a victim more productive and curb her appetite, allowing the pimp to increase the pimp's profit margins by increasing revenues from sex trafficking while spending less on food and other substance for sex workers. This is I appreciate that, Waterman. This is a lot, man. Yeah, please do hit the thumbs up if you're watching. It's a thumbs up for the content. It's not thumbs up for what these clowns was doing. The enterprise maintained a stronghold over certain local businesses that promote the patterns of crimes committed by the enterprise, including the House of Hotties at 8501 South Figueroa Street, Suite 103 in Los Angeles, which was owned or operated by Hoover's and Hoover's Associates. So this is a spot that sold clothes to the prostitutes, right? To the workers, to the victims, depending on how you want to look at it. So well, I highlighted this to make the point of, you might be from the hood, right? And like you got a little money, you want to level up. And well, shit, I'm right here by the hose stroll. Let me buy a little shop that provides clothes to the hoes and think that you're going legit. But again, your store is now in this indictment and it's being called a Hoover store. And this is where they go in drug transactions. And there's no shoplifting there because if you shoplift there, they're going to whoop your ass and put it on camera. And in a hood mindset, we think all this is okay, right? Not the abuse of the girls, but like, man, I want to have a hood store, you know? And I've leveled up and I'm legit and I'm doing stuff right. Okay, but if you're contributing to criminal activity or you're allowing criminal activity to happen in your property and in your place of business, then you too can find yourself in a federal indictment, right? So that's why I mentioned this. Like, if you look at indictments, you will see what the government is doing, and then look at what you're doing and people around you are doing and young folks are doing, and perhaps change some of that behavior if you don't want to see these results for you and your people. That's why some of the stuff I point out. To support their human trafficking and drug trafficking activities and to maintain control over their territories, the enterprise maintained a ready supply of firearms. Hoover's members shared these firearms and stashed them for one another. Members proudly displayed these firearms on social media posts, of course, to maintain and promote the enterprise's reputation for violence, to intimidate the general community and the women and girls they sought to traffic, and to deter rival gang members who threatened to encroach on their territory, or knock their sex workers. It literally says, or knock their sex workers. The prolific and publicized possession of firearms allows Hoover's to maintain exclusive control of its territory for illicit purposes. Again, if you out there and you're dressed up in this color or that color and you're showing a gun because somehow you think that makes you look cool when in reality it makes you look like an idiot, but you're flashing this gun, look at how law enforcement may see it. They may snatch your picture off Instagram just like they did these dudes and be like, hey, you're showing that gun to maintain exclusive control of this gang's territory and the crimes that are committed within it. That's enough to get you wrapped up. That's definitely enough to put a spotlight on you. So you got the little emojis or whatever and the hand signs in your Instagram profile because you want to rep where you're from. And then you got a picture with a pistol. You're not just repping where you're from. You are targeting yourself and putting a spotlight on yourself as being a part of a criminal conspiracy. And you never know what the feds are doing with your homeboys or in your backyard, right? Is there an indictment getting ready to come down in your neighborhood? You don't fucking know. No idea. It's just, again, social media and criminal activity do not do not line up, man. Many enterprise members identify themselves as rappers. Oh, fuck, of course. You almost can't be a criminal without being a rapper these days. God, like who who laced these people, man? But these songs and videos often glorified the Hoovers, the pimping lifestyle, narcotic sales, and firearm possession, thereby further elevating the reputation of the enterprise and catalyzing recruitment for sex trafficking victims. And here's a video. This video has like close to 1 million views out there. It has a lot of views. I know some of the P4, that's P4K on the front. He sex trafficked juveniles. Um, he ain't Hoover, but he rocked with him, I guess. Um, they like I said, they're creating a story. So these guys go to trial. They're not just gonna play a rap video and say, "Oh, look, here's these people rapping about violence." I mean, that's prejudicial a little bit, but you can kind of get past that. And you hear a lot of conversation. You can't use my rap lyrics because it's artistic and it's this and it's that. And there's some truth to that. And I have fought against that in court with some success in the past. But when they frame it this way, hey, these dudes is pimping, they're recruiting young girls. These songs glorify their lifestyle or the image of their lifestyle of money and guns and cars and homies and that helps them recruit young, impressionable, victimized kids, right? To then be their slaves, because that's essentially what they were. That story is pretty persuasive to a jury, right? That sounds different than, oh, the dude's a gangster because look how much he sounds like a gangster on his music. This is a coordinated effort by these pimps. Um, and again, there's no excuses for the shit that they did, and I hope that they, like I said, never see the light of day, and I hope that they wind up going to prison and getting pimped, even though that really don't happen in California, but it's a Fed case, so hopefully they find themselves in a federal prison where that does happen. Um, but this, and I'm all for innocent until proven guilty, but wait till you see some of the details on this, and then tell me if you're still capping for these cats. Um, but this is in general when it comes to rap music. They're starting to reframe what that rap music is for, right? Now they're not saying necessarily, oh, these lyrics point to crimes. No, man, it's gang shit. And it makes their gang look tough and it scares their enemies. And they be careful, be careful. The purposes of the enterprise. Purposes of the enterprise include, but are not limited to the following: enriching members through, among other things, recruiting and maintaining juvenile and adult females through force, fraud, or coercion to engage in commercial sex work, transporting sex workers across state lines to engage in prostitution, distributing illegal narcotics, kidnapping, money laundering, robberies, and conducting other profit driven illegal activities in LA and elsewhere. Maintain control over illegal activities occurring in Hoover's territory within LA, including keeping the public at large in fear of the enterprise and in fear of its members and associates through threats of violence and actual violence. Controlling commercial sex work in Hoover's territory, including the Figueroa corridor, through intimidation, violence against sex workers operating in the corridor without a trafficker in the enterprise, violence against rivals who attempted to traffic in the area or recruit sex workers belonging to enterprise member, and congregation in the corridor to show strong and consistent Hoover's presence. This is an interesting one. Preserving, protecting, and expanding the power of the enterprise by broadcasting acts and threats of violence on social media platforms to reach the broader public and elevate the Hoover's reputation for violence. So it's become popular to film yourself running up on ops, right? Catching people slipping and all sort of bullshit. And again, I don't think a lot of people who watch my channel engage in that stuff because we tend to be a little bit older, but you may know some young folks around, right? And all that little shit that you think is cute for likes and views and now these different Instagram communities and TikTok pages are reposting you punking somebody or running up on somebody and giving them the business, and you feel like that's cute and that makes you some kind of a reputable Are you going to feel that way when the federal government says the reason that you're doing that is you're trying to scare the entire fucking public and elevate the reputation of your gang? Uh, That's a heavy argument. Like that. Oh man, that's not what it was. I was just running up on an op and thought it'd be funny to post it on Instagram and show me punking this dude. Okay, well, actions have consequences, and you don't get to control how what you do is interpreted by other people. I've talked about that many times before, right? Just like in a conversation, I may say something to you and I don't intend for it to be disrespectful, but you take it disrespectful. I can't control how you're going to respond. You might turn around and pop me in the mouth. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. I mean, you pop me in the mouth and pop you back. But for argument's sake, I'm like, damn, that was unnecessary. I didn't mean anything by it. Shit, that ain't how I took it. I took it like you meant something. And so I reacted. It's the same thing with all this shit on social media. Man, I wasn't that serious when I posted that clip of these kids fighting in the neighborhood. Okay, well, law enforcement took it serious. You know? Uh, the means and methods of the enterprise. I'm starting to get down to the meat and potatoes, but enterprise members conspired to commit. Make sure you hit the like button too, because it'll help Instagram tell people to watch this. And I'm not recording a video on it. So, hey, numbers, I truly appreciate you, man. Thank you for the generosity, bro. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enterprise members conspired to commit, attempted to commit, and committed ex trafficking of minors by targeting and recruiting children in the foster care system, runaways, and children who grew up in and around the Figueroa corridor, where commercial sex was normalized and highly visible, among others. Enterprise members conspired to commit, attempted to commit, and committed trafficking of minors by providing them with false identification cards to facilitate interstate travel and to present to law enforcement if they were caught performing commercial sex. So you can't say these dudes, oh, I didn't know she was a minor. Then why the fuck you get her a fake ID if you thought she was an adult? Like this. And one dude, the real rapper dude, watch, I've got some shit to tell you about him. I heard he had gotten busted a while back and he was trying to claim that he didn't have nothing to do with no kids or anything else. Man, if you don't shut the fuck up, it's... Hey, C-Dub, thank you, man. I appreciate you. A person's full name and county and look them up. It's not hard, really true. True, and it depends on where you're getting it from. This Fed stuff, the Feds put a lot of paperwork out. Enterprise members conspired to commit, attempted to, and committed trafficking through force, fraud, or coercion by utilizing terror and intimidation tactics, such as forming pimp circles, where several enterprise members closely encircled the victim, aggressively attempted to make eye contact, and prevented the trafficking victim from leaving until she chose one of the pimps by looking them in the eye. I want you to picture this. And picture a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old or a fucking 25-year-old for that matter. But in this case, let's talk, because there's 14-year-old victims in this case. There's 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. We'll get to that. And numerous. Not one or two. Not, oh, that one girl that lied about her age. No. It's a pattern. There's a bunch of them. And a lot of it was recruiting off of Instagram. So I best believe I had a conversation with my daughter when I picked her up. But picture for a moment. You live in the hood, right? You might live in a Figueroa area. And it's the best you can do, right? You grew up there. You ain't got it like that to move elsewhere. You're hardworking. You're not home all the time because you're working, making ends meet, playing by the rules. You got a daughter, man. She's 16, 14. She's walking down the street to go to the corner store. All of a sudden, a group of dudes form a circle around her. Guys in their 20s, 30s even. And they circle up around her and they're packed in. And it's prey and a predator. It's predators and prey. They're the predators and she's the prey and they're surrounding her. And they're yelling at her and they're popping at her and they woo, right? And she's scared. She's put her head down, fearful, like, fuck, what am I going to do? Like, she has nowhere to go. She's blocked in. And she looks up and whoever she happens to make eye contact with now owns her and snatches her ass up and says she chose him. Oh, you chose up? And snatches her. She's gone. She might be in Vegas that night, turning tricks. She might be in Chicago. She might be down the street in a hotel and you can't get in there because all the goons is outside and they're not going to let you go up in. Like, that's, hey, Joe Blow, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you. When I heard about these pimp circles, that's what I picture. And so help me God, man. It's it's wild. It's wild. Um and like I said, I didn't come into this with a very positive view of pimps anyways. But this is wild. Enterprise members conspired. So it all says conspired to commit, attempted to, and committed sex trafficking through force, fraud, and coercion. And then by kidnapping them when they're not controlled by a Hoover Enterprise pimp, bringing them back to Hoover territory and forcing them to work for a Hoover Enterprise gang. At one point, a couple of these people went to, it's in the indictment, they went to San Bernardino and just popped out and started trying to snatch broads up and throw them in the fucking trunk to bring them back to Figueroa. Like, you work for me now. Enterprise members did all that by threatening physical violence or perpetrating physical violence on the victim as a means of discipline or enlisting other Enterprise members to assist. They committed all this trafficking and fraud by posting to social media videos and photographs of their assaults on others to intimidate their victims and ensure their compliance in performing commercial sex for their pimps and their enterprises' enrichment. By pimping their victims at certain Hoover strongholds, such as the Stadium Inn, where they maintain control over their victims with the steady presence of other Hoover's members, often wearing Hoover gang colors and attire, creating an atmosphere of intimidation and an invisible perimeter to prevent victims from leaving. Again, a lesson for others outside of this specific activity, right? But you in the hood, you're young or not young, I guess, you ain't got nothing better to do. And you post it up at a hot spot, right? It's the homie's house or it's the apartment complex where some of the homies live. So you just post it up out there. And you're dressed the part and look the part, and maybe you are the part. And there's some shit happening in some of those rooms. You don't really know about it. You ain't got nothing to do about it. That's the other homies doing their thing. It ain't, you just post it up out there, drinking, smoking some trees. See how law enforcement interprets that, right? Is an invisible perimeter to prevent victims from leaving. So you can be accountable and associated with what's going on behind you just by virtue of the fact that you posted up. And I don't agree with that. I don't think everybody that was posted up outside of the Stadium Inn, don't get me wrong, I don't think everybody posted up outside the Stadium Inn had something to do with the trafficking of minors and all this shit that was going on. Some of them probably just from the neighborhood, and that was a hot spot to kick it and post up, right? And again, keep in mind that this is all happening in an area in which the outdoor market of women has been a constant factor for many, 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 many years. So I think that influences the way that some of these young folks view things, right? Because it has been normalized for so long. I think they are desensitized to some things. That being said, I don't feel as adults we should ever make excuses. And these are adults that are involved in this with minors. But I don't think everybody posted up outside the inn was intending to contribute to the activities going on or even had full knowledge of the activities going on. And they might have thought, oh, the homie's pimping or whatever, but didn't realize the extent of the depravity, right? But law enforcement is like, shit, that's you in the mix. Enterprise members transported minors and adults across the country to sex traffic them, including throughout California, Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, Illinois, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, Florida, and New York, among other states. They committed drug trafficking, a controlled substance, including oxys, promethazine with codeine, benzodiazepine, prazolam, fentanyl. They gave drugs to other, street workers. They gave drugs to Johns. They did all that. They sent money through Cash App. So here's some of the people flexing their money. The names that I've highlighted are people who are accused of trafficking in minors specifically. Not everybody's accused of that. Armstead is accused of being a ringleader. She's accused of trafficking in minors. Young is accused of trafficking in minors. Harris is accused of trafficking in minors. Brooks is accused of trafficking in minors. And Robinson, who is the rapper. I think some of the other ones are rappers too, but he's the rapper PK, is absolutely accused of trafficking in minors. And then these fools, apparently the crown emoji signifies that you're a pimp. That's what the federal government is saying. So if you're doing crown emojis on your Instagram shit, you might want to be careful. So all this transpired between January February 2021 through August 7th, 2025 at LA County. Man, that's some greasy shit. Facts. You gotta do Skyballer next. I don't know what Skyballer is, little head for one. This shit is what they're glorifying along with killing each other. It's not really a big surprise that charges are coming out for this activity. Right? And that's the thing is when you glorifying pimping, you're glorifying this. Right? It's because once you go down that road, that's what you go down. That's why I think I had a video that I planned to do. I was gonna put Sharp on the thumbnail just because he's kind of like the pimp that be on social media, and I think he's soft as a feather down pillow, right? Not like calling him out type thing, but just this dude got sugar in his tank, and it kind of reminds me of the pimps that I saw growing up, right? They all, kind of Fruit Loops, and just, like I said, just bums in my opinion. And I never got around to doing a video, but I do, man. I have no respect for pimps. I didn't have to be a father to reach that conclusion. I remember sitting in prison as I was like 20 and talking to an older black dude that been around for a long time. And there was a dude walking on the yard, and he had, his hair was pressed and curled, and he had long fingernails, and like he fit the stereotype of a pimp walking on the yard. And I tripped out because I was like, damn, why is he like that here? Like they know females here. Like why you all firmed out and everything? Like why do you want to walk around a male prison acting like a pimp? You ain't pimping nothing here. You know what I mean? And if anything, he's probably the most feminine looking dude on the yard. And the older brother told me, he's like, look, those are the worst criminals. You can't never trust a pimp because everything is for sale. Their morals, their values, their ass, you name it. Everything has a price. They're just greasy individuals. Everything has a price. Everything is for sale. You can't have any camaraderie with somebody like that. You can't rock with somebody like that. You can't trust somebody like that. And I always took that to heart. And I'm sure that there's some examples of guys that have pimped women that don't fit that description. I'm not in the business of giving the benefit of the doubt to sexual predators, so I could really give a fuck if somebody's offended or not. But I do understand there's probably diversity within that population. But in my view, I've always took hold of that. Like he articulated something that I had always kind of felt like something's off with these dudes. And he explained it, and that's how I feel. So they dealt in controlled substances, robbery, kidnapping, trafficking of children by force, fraud, or coercion, transporting minors for sexual activity, transporting adults into interstate commerce for prostitution, coercion, enticement, racketeering, money laundering, straw purchasing of guns, distributing and controlled substances. So overt acts. I'm not going to read every overt act, but I am going to read a few of them to give you guys an idea of what these fucking weirdos were doing. 4 women were branded with tattoos of defendant Armstead's moniker, which was Lady Duck. 2 people were branded with tattoos of defendant Amoako's moniker, Hands. 3 people were branded with symbols of wording that defendant Israel used to identify himself. This girl, all these tattoos though is coming off girls that are victims and also gave statements, especially that one because I recognized that tattoo in the description later. And she brought him a lot of money and he did her really dirty, and then she talked to the federal government and now he's never gonna fucking come home from prison. That's how I think it's gonna play out. So first of all, just from a criminal standpoint, and again, I'm not in the business of seeing pimps get away with shit, but you gotta be a special kind of stupid to fucking brand people. For one, I think it's too much like the chattel slavery, same thing, branding people. Oh, come on, man, this is 2025. But also just from a legal standpoint, the feds gonna see it. The cops gonna see this. They stop these girls all the time. They see Lady Duck. They're gonna get in their ear. I can imagine an agent came along at some point and was like, look, man, I'm with the FBI. Like, we got you. We know how she treats you. We know it ain't right. We got all these other girls. You ain't the only one with her name on you. Come on now, you work with us, we'll work with you. It's I don't know, like you think you're looking cool for social media, or maybe you feel like it's cool to have a bunch of these fucking strung out emotionally broken women walking around with your name tattooed on them. But now look, you're indicted. Like, it's just stupid. So again, there's overacts, and you guys can read this stuff for yourself. There's a lot. Damn near everything says coded messages on Instagram. And in my experience, looking at these indictments, people's codes are trash. Obviously, ain't that good because everybody getting caught. They're selling drugs on Instagram, going back to 2021. They're trying to pull people. They're threatening to break prostitutes' jaws. But there's a few of these overacts that I highlighted. Uh, Again, they're selling oxys. They're talking about how they recruit sex workers. They beat sex workers. Defendant Gray attempted to kidnap victims for sex trafficking. That's when they went to San Bernardino, tried to throw some girls in the car. Defendant Ameako sex trafficked victim through force, fraud, and coercion from 2022 to 2023. Look at him. He shifted to guilting her, asking, "You really gonna leave daddy in this cold world, knowing you all I got?" Defendant also claimed that he elevated victim 2 every day. When victim 2 did not receive his desired response, he shifted back to threats, swearing on the Hoovers that he would remember this, adding, "Fuck you, bitch, die out here on the blade. I hope a trick rapes and kills you and leaves you on the side of the freeway." He also threatened to kick down her mother's door and noted the apartment number to show he knew where she lived. Then victim 2 says she would go to the police. He threatened to have her assaulted for snitching and vowed he would wire her jaw shut. Newsflash, she wound up going to the police. And then she goes on for months and she brings them all kinds of money and watches and shit, and this is how it goes. Overact number 32. There's almost 200 overacts in this paperwork. That's why I'm not reading them all. This is defendant Israel. On November 17, 2023, using coded messages on Instagram, he directed victim 3 to rob a John in Las Vegas. Victim 3 informed defendant Israel that the John had a Rolex watch. She says she would also take $1,750 in chips, $2,800 in cash, $450 in Apple Pay. Victim 3 confirmed that the John took the watch off and she got it. So all you people out there tricking, feeling like you're going to buy these girls, just know that these girls are under intense pressure to strip your ass of everything that you got. This fool thought he was slick in Vegas, won a little bit of money, and got okie doked. So that was in November 2023. That's what she did for him, right? She gave it all to him. On February 10th, 2024, he physically assaulted her, punched her, kicked her in the bathroom. She fell back into the toilet. He continued to beat her on her back and side until she curled into a ball to protect herself. Then, a few months later, she broke a date for $3,200, made $3,800 in total for the night. The next day, she sent him $2,400 on Cash App, right? And he was like, "I'm trying to save all this money because I'm gonna get you pregnant after we make $200,000." And then, sure enough, you fast forward enough, and defendant Israel ripped out victim 3's hair, hit her in the face, caused her knees to bleed from dragging her. It's just, that's all this is in a lot of these cases is the girl gave up money. The dude beat the shit out of her. She gave up money. He had other people beat her up. She said, "I'm sorry." She tried to get away. She went to the police. He beat her up. Like, just over and over. It's just like a really bad fucking movie. That's why I'm not reading all of it. It's over, and I just highlighted certain things to address. Over Act 56. Enterprise members sexted and drugged and trafficked and committed assaults and furtherance. January 1st, 2023, using coded language on Instagram, defendant Robinson posted an advertisement to apply to be his sex worker, noting that all applicants must be obedient. So these dudes are just on IG flexing. Like, watch your children. Watch the women in your life, man. It's some of these good dudes are good at what they do, man. And some of these women too, clearly they got a chick at the top of the indictment. But if you look just casually, right? Using coded language on Instagram. 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 That's all. He recruited a sex worker, enticed her by offering that she could go on tour with him if she started working for him. Defendant Robinson stated that his most motivated sex workers would be going with him, while some stayed back and worked the feed corridor. These dudes all get up there and flash cash that's now used against them. Overact. Defendant Armstead posted a video of herself beating a woman in a convenience store, holding her down by the hair and repeatedly kicking and kneeing her while demanding the woman apologize for dissing the set and yelling on Hoovers as she beat her. The woman shouts that she is pregnant, but defendant Armstead continues to beat her as someone off camera tells defendant the assault is being captured on surveillance cameras. What's up, C-Dub? Good to see you. The real Rico Mercado. Did you ever remove my son's paperwork so he can keep taking classes? I believe that he is okay. Let me follow up with you. Yeah, let me follow up with you tonight. See something real quick. Let me close this down. It's act after act of beating these women, taking their money, tattooing them. Like I said, there's hundreds of them. That's why I'm not going them out. Just imagine what a pimp might do to a girl, and that's what you see here. I'm gonna get to these juveniles in a minute, though. Oh, here we go. Defendant Robinson, sex trafficking victim number 7, a then 16-year-old girl. So there's Robinson. Defendant Robinson told victim 7 she had to pay him $2,500 in order for him to be her pimp, and she must make $1,000 per day through commercial sex work. Said he beat her if she didn't make $1,000. He beat one of his sex trafficking victims in front of her. In and around July 2023, he texted Defendant Robinson texted victim 7 saying she had paid him $500 but needed to pay him an additional $2,000, after which she would be his property. So July 2023 is when all this stuff happens. Defendant text saying, how many commercial sex acts have you completed? How much money did you make? Defendant Robinson's direction, victim 7 made 2 Cash App payments to a different defendant's Cash App account, totaling $120, which were the proceeds of her trafficking. Defendant Phillips, sex trafficking victims 8 through forced fraud. So that's just more. That's a different defendant, trafficking females. These females are adults. Traffic victim number 9. In and around September 2023, through a series of Instagram messages, calls, and in-person meetings, defendant Phillips recruited victim 9 to work for him as a sex worker. He told her in coded messages that he gave her an interview, even though she did not bring him the required initiation fee. Inland, I don't know. I probably said something he didn't like. Again, coded message. Just look as I scroll through, right through coded messages. Sex proceeds over Cash App. Coded messages on Instagram. Fat TV, I think. So I'm going to get to this whole that it's not going to be reprimanded, because I believe it will be reprimanded. I really believe that it will. And I'm going to tell you guys why, and we'll get to that. Because times have changed. The internet changed things for better and for worse. January 27, 2024, using coded messages on Instagram, an unindicted co-conspirator complained to defendant Evans that Hoovers were hanging out without any guns and thus making the gang look weak. Defendant Evans replied they should start having a gang meeting every week. See? Like, it's childish, right? This is not normal. When did this shit become okay in the gang world? Kids, how's it going to play out locked up for real? They're going to be accepted all bad. No, they got it. They're... listen, matter of fact, let me play something real quick. I'll play you guys something real fast. Let me see. Where's it at? Let me see. So listen to this real fast, just because some of you people saying that ain't nothing gonna be done about it.
They on the streets, they doing the same thing. They high-fiving each other. If you got a 14-year-old, I got a 16-year-old. Bad peoples, dead homies. In here, it's grumpy people. You got weird old men. It's people. You got members that's pressing. As soon as we hear minor is bad for you, no matter who you is or what you did, you didn't even have to do it.
Right.
But if you came to jail for it, it's 9 times out of 10, it's gonna go bad for you. And them type of bads is not the good bads. We not whooping you out 5-on-1 and you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because look, it could be people, daughters and nieces and all that. I'm not talking about nobody or nothing. I'm saying on lanes, I'm seeing crazy things and I'm like, I'm giving y'all the response what's gonna happen on lanes. Period. I'm the one that's gonna tell you what's gonna happen. All them people on the streets, they just popping it. Dead homies. They don't know. They scared. They scared to get a write up anyways. And people on the street. I'm telling you what's gonna happen with a sex offender coming to jail to this main line. To where I'm at. I don't know what's gonna happen if he ran into them weirdos on L's. I'm saying if he come to the line on lanes, because I'm not the hardest person in the world, and I don't portray it. It's members in here. If you come to the line with that, look, certain of them people, look, I'm gonna say it like this: the people that's on the TV, they don't even gotta be proven guilty. They name, I'm not saying no, I'm not pinpointing nobody. I'm not talking about nobody. If you was just on that TV shit, your name 90% written in stone on L's. Damn, everybody saying, damn, that was the people's good people's. It's bad for him. Because they can let it slip and slide when he in county bounty, but the here on lanes is coming to the light on DLB 109th Street, yanking on you.
So I wanted to share that real quick, right? Yeah, that's the blood. That's the blood. I forget his name, Brazy or something. I don't know. He's in prison in California right now. This is a federal indictment, so these people are not going to a California prison system. From everything I heard, he reputable, right, person in his section or whatever. But obviously, I don't know from firsthand experience. So here's what I'll say, and I'll get into some of the stuff right here with the kids, right? But here's what I would say, because I've been hearing a lot, like, oh man, black politics, they ain't gonna do nothing to these dudes. Look, I'm not an expert in black politics. Obviously, I did not go to prison and run with black folks. I did program alongside a lot of brothers, and I do have some familiarity with the nuance. Okay, so here's the thing. It's how it used to be from what I observed when I was in prison, okay, the 90s, early 2000s, but by then I was already in the shoot, so I wasn't out on the yard. I was on the yard in the 90s, right? And so here, Palmetto, right, trip on this though. And this is why I say it's different now than it was. What's up to Nickel and Diamond? I see you, homie. Irony, what's good? So in the 90s, you come into prison, and for the brothers, a lot of time, it's just people from your section that would check your paperwork, okay? It wasn't like there's some overall black dudes that you got to go check in with. You go check in with your neighborhood. Right? If you're a Sacramento blood, you go to the Sacramento card, to the bloods, specifically, or whatever. If you a San Diego, Crip, you go check in with the San Diego Crips. Like everything was fractured. And so the odds are you pull up on a yard and you get with your people from your neighborhood. And yes, sometimes folks from your neighborhood will let some shit slide when it comes to you. So you come in there and you got a reputation of pimping, and maybe you got pimping of a minor. And then, man, we just chalk it up to the game. That's the homie. The rest of the brothers don't know that you got those weird charges because you're not their business. Their section and their neighborhood is their business, right? So they don't know about it. And you can't, in my experience from what I observed, if like a Bay Area dude can't go to some LA blood and be like, let me check your paperwork, right? Nah, that's not your role. That's not your position. Who the fuck are you? So they're more fractured in that regard, right? Now, if it comes a race riot, then that Bay Area dude and that LA blood are going to be shoulder to shoulder and getting off, But in terms of they had their own little groups, right? Their own little squads, maybe by county or by city or by hood or however, depending on the numbers. That's the 90s. This is the 2025s. Like how he's saying, bro, I'm seeing on the news. I'm looking on the news. And I think he's in Slingsby, but I'm not 100% sure. But wherever he's at, he's like, I'm looking on the news, or I'm on my phone checking the news from my local area, And I see all you people getting caught for this, and they're saying that you got shit to do with trafficking of 14-year-olds. He's not from Hoover, but he knows what these dudes are coming in there for. So now let's say these dudes come to the yard. Again, that's not going to happen in this case because it's a federal indictment. But if let's say it was a state indictment and they pull up to the yard, right? All the brothers on the yard know, nah, y'all motherfuckers were out there playing with kids. So even if maybe some of the dudes from Hoover were like, we'd like to let this slide because you're the homie or you're my relative or I know your mom or whatever. So I would like to make excuses for you, but I can't because these other brothers are going to come and be like, bro, them motherfuckers can't be here. And if you want to rock with them, you can get it too. And I have seen, not very often when I was in prison, but I did see instances where two black cars would clash because the brothers know the brothers in one group, and I'm not going to get into what groups, right? But the blacks in one group from one area, they know something about this other dude from another section, right? So they go tell the dudes from that section, hey, your homeboy, is foul in these ways. And they don't want to do anything about it. But these brothers feel strongly about it. So they're like, fuck it. And they wind up getting off on each other, this group versus this group. Because you're covering up for somebody that's shady. And if you don't want to do something about it, we'll do something about it with all of you. And I think that's what would happen in the state system now, which is a little bit different because everybody knows. Imagine this dude, P4K, right? P4 Kelly, the rapper dude. He got rap songs with 1 million views on YouTube. All the bloggers, everybody's talking about this, right? So let's say it turns out that he pulls up to New Folsom, to an active yard. Next thing you know, No Jumper's like, hey, I wonder how P4K's doing in New Folsom. Fuck you mean in New Folsom? He got all them weird charges. Now, people on the streets are getting at their people that are in New Folsom like, bro, you programming on the yard with this dude? Like, fuck him and what he stands for. So there's more communication and it's immediate. The streets can call prison and be like, hey, something needs to be done about this. Just like the prisons can call the streets and be like, hey, something needs to be done about this. That wasn't the case as much back in the days before all this internet and social media stuff. So that's why I think it is a very high probability. And this dude is I've heard him speak before. I'm subscribed to his channel. I just don't recall his name. His channel's like Who's, but he's from Denver Lanes, I think. All the stuff I've heard him talk about before when he's talked about prison, it has been like it sounds familiar. He sounds to it. I think he's telling the truth. It sounds familiar and sounds reasonable and rational. Now, when he talks about how it is in the county jail or whatever, I don't know. I've never been to the county jail down there, but when he talks about prison, he's pretty spot on, and he has a large platform, and people pay attention. So him saying this, be brazy, there you go. So him saying this, that's a pressure, and you best believe if these dudes were to pull up to a general population yard somewhere in California, he gonna be on there being loud as fuck, right? And so yeah, see, so the Baby Stone Gorillas may not want to do nothing about their homie. But this dude, who's also a blood from that area, I think a different set or whatever, but kind of from that arena, Denver Lanes is over there kind of by Fig, right? He's always saying, bro, you might as well go PC because you can't make it here. And he said in that video, if you watch the whole thing, I'll link to it later, but he says in there, I heard you had some bad charges. I heard you was doing some weird shit. And I told you personally, don't let me find out this shit is true. Don't let me find out that this is going to happen. Because if so, it's bad for you. Right? And he's like, now it's on the news. It's true. So it's fucking bad for you. And so, sure, there's going to be people that try to cover up for their homie. And some of these dudes probably got a little bread stashed. But the pressure looks different because of social media. Now the internet is looking like, hey, what's going to happen to these motherfuckers, right? And that puts some pressure. But these dudes are going to go to the feds. I have never done fed time. I talked to a couple people or messaged, I talked to somebody, I messaged somebody else who had done fed time. And at first, one of the people I talked to said, look, when it comes to the feds, it really depends on where they go, right? If they go out of state, they're going to be a part of the California car. It don't matter that they're Hoovers or what, say, the other dudes with blood. They're just going to be part of the California car. And it kind of depends on who's running the California car for the blacks on if they're going to push that line or not, right? Are they way outnumbered? Are they in war? Do they need bodies? Maybe they let it slide. Who knows? This person said, man, I saw several pimps when I was in prison, and that was the one exception to shit involving minors. If you come to prison with a case involving a minor in the feds, you're through. But for some reason, but this was going back some years, right? Like I said, 90s, 2000s. For some reason, he was like, honestly, a lot of the pimps, they were allowed to slide through because it was chalked up to the game, and so they kind of got a pass. And some of those pimps was killers and was with the shit. I talked to somebody else, and they're like, really, it depends on where they go. Now, these dudes will probably go to California prisons. You go to a California prison, there's a lot of people from California there. So it's not a California car. It's broken up into cliques, right? So then it kind of depends on what clique you fall up under and how they feel. But again, with all the attention and the media attention, there's going to be pressure on the brothers on that yard to make something happen. And I think all of these people will be touched if they hit the general population. Now, the female that's at the head of the ticket, I don't know, because I don't know how the women prisons work. Hopefully, they stomp that bitch out, right? Just that's what I hope, and bury her in the prison. But I don't know how, I don't know. I think a lot of women go to prison for shit having to do with kids, so I'm guessing that they have some kind of different rules in there or whatever. And there's a lot of same-sex activity in female prisons, and so I don't know. I just have no idea. Uh, but these dudes, if this was 1993, I think there's a very good chance that they could go to prison and slide through the cracks. At least some of them, for sure. I really do believe that. But not because all black people are okay with this behavior, just because of the way that things were organized and structured. A lot of people wouldn't know. But in 2025, no, I think they're toast. Or like B Brazy said, they're cooked on Jesus Christ. And I hope he's right. Yeah, somebody was saying Sky Baller. I don't know anything about it, but I could look at it. Um, yeah, Tori was into Hatsby, but he was on a PCR. Um, you do need a scorecard and a pencil to keep track of the CDC yards. Um, look, these people just talking about. Now, there's a lot of unindicted co-conspirators in here. So some of these people looking at this paperwork are going to know exactly who some of these unindicted co-conspirators are. I want to say something that gets mixed up a lot in social media. Just because somebody is an unindicted co-conspirator does not mean that they are a rat. Okay? I'm not saying none of the unindicted co-conspirators are rats. I don't know who they are. I don't know one way or another. But I have seen before where you can have an unindicted co-conspirator and maybe they're from a different gang. Maybe they're being investigated for other crimes, so the government doesn't want to name them yet. Um, they might fuck around and be indicted. There may be a superseding indictment to this. A month from now, they may indict a whole bunch of other Hoovers, and some of them may be unindicted co-conspirators on this case. They may be members from a different section that were doing business with them, or they may be a fucking rat and they're telling, which is why they're not indicted. Like, it varies. So if you're reading this paperwork and you know the parties involved, and you're like, oh, I know who asked for that F&N pistol from old boy. So I know who that is, that unindicted co-conspirator. It doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, that that individual is telling. They might be, but they might not be. This is not enough to be able to tell. So I just want to put that out there. People get that mixed up all the time. Just like records being sealed or paperwork being sealed does not mean that somebody's telling, right? Sometimes it is because of that, for sure, but there's other reasons too, and people jump to conclusions with limited information, and then you gotta turn around and backtrack because you fucked up. Uh, Over Act number 130 on February 20th, 2024, using coded messages on Instagram, an unindicted co-conspirator asked defendant Armstead if she wanted to purchase his sex worker for $1,000. noting that if she did not, he would sell her organs across the border. So this dude is like, hey, bro, you want to buy my girl? And if not, I'm going to end her life and sell her organs in Mexico. Now, maybe he's just talking. I don't know. Obviously, the government knows who this is because he's listed as unindicted co-conspirator. So, defendant Armstead replied by asking what they look like. The depravity, man. The depravity of this. What's up, B Queen? Good to see you. Jules, salute. Good to see you. Okay, Rich, I got that. Let me see. I highlighted some other shit on here. Trying to get to a lot of this stuff is Armstead, the female at the top. But like I said, all the people that I identified have charges against minors. Defendant Robinson sent an audio message to Defendant Armstead saying that he pimps and panders minors that are over 16 years old and under 18 years old. What's up, Razor? I said, there's so much, right? It's already been like an hour. I'd be on here forever if I tried to read this all. Over at Act 185, using coded Instagram messages, Armstead identified a person in a photograph as law enforcement cooperator, adding Hoover want his head. Well, that's not going to look good in front of a jury. Defendant Armstead sex trafficked victim 11, a then 14-year-old girl, while drug trafficking with defendant Evans, 14 years old. 14 years. I just picked up my 10th grade daughter from school today. She's older. She's older than the girl that we're about to talk about here. April 26, 2024 through at least April 29th, defendant Armstead and Evans utilized hotel rooms at the Stadium Inn for their sex workers, including victim 11, a 14-year-old girl, to use for commercial dates with Johns. On April 26 and 27, using coded messages on Instagram, Evans advised defendant Armstead he was at the hotel room they were sharing. Evans asked defendant Armstead to take him to the 10 because Didi owed him 1,000. That doesn't mean nothing. Defendant Crockham flashed the Hoover gang sign in the parking lot of the Stadium Inn. Armstead took victim 11 to the House of Hotties in order to purchase clothing for commercial sex work. Victim 11 was 14 years old. Just want to remind you guys. Defendant Armstead took victim 11 to a store called Sluts, located at 7612 South Figueroa Street in LA, in order to purchase clothing for commercial sex work. Armstead gave victim 11 instructions about how to engage in commercial sex work, including telling victim 11, who is 14 years old, not to talk to black men and not to talk to other sex workers. While the defendant was trafficking victim 11, defendant Evans paid for and picked up food for Armstead. Using coded messages, Armstead told defendant Evans to instruct his workers to take oxycodone out of the hotel room. Okay, that's just some drug shit. Defendant Armstead gave victim 11, who was 14 years old, a narcotic pill while she was engaging in commercial sex acts, which resulted in victim 11 being under the influence. At 1 a.m., defendant Armstead received notification from the 14-year-old girl over Instagram messages that she didn't have any condoms. About 2 o'clock in the morning, she got a message from the 14-year-old girl saying she was leaving the Stadium Inn. About 2:15, Armstead told the 14-year-old girl how much money did she make from sex work, to which she replied she'd made $85 but only had $80 left because she spent $5 on condoms. 3 in the morning, Armstead received Instagram messages from the 14-year-old girl saying she needed more condoms. 3:44 a.m., she was leaving the stadium. 4:30 a.m., defendant sent a message to the 14-year-old girl directing her to get 5 more sex dates. About 8 o'clock that night, the 14-year-old sent Instagram messages to defendant saying that she forgot condoms again, to which Armstead directed her to have somebody else buy them. About 10:30 that night, Armstead sent an Instagram message to victim 11, who's a 14-year-old girl, asking her where she was, to which victim 11 stated she was in a car doing a blowjob. Defendant Armstead asked if victim 11 closed the door. Victim 11 says she thought she did close the door, to which Armstead replied, "Don't close the door." The 14-year-old, earned a total of $184.94 that she sent to Armstead. In coded messages, Evans told defendant Armstead he had fired his worker and asked Armstead to get her gun and oxy. Okay. At approximately 2:45 in the morning, defendant Armstead sent an Instagram message to victim 11, who's 14 years old, asking how much money she made. She responded approximately 2:53 a.m. saying she made $152 but would stay out working until she made $500. Later at about 3 a.m., the defendant received a request from victim 11 asking to bring her pepper spray and a knife. About 4 a.m., she pulled up. She got a message from the 14-year-old girl who said that she had $2,000 for Armstead. Then there's a whole conversation about how she gets... Yo, here we go. What's up, Joe Blow? On May 1st, 2024, using coded messages on Instagram, defendant Armstead and an unindicted co-conspirator discussed defendant Armstead's sex trafficking of victim 11, who was 14 years old. Defendant Armstead stated this trafficking made her look like a child predator after victim 11's family picked her up in the parking lot of the Stadium Inn. The unindicted co-conspirator informed defendant that he was contacted by the victim's family. So this is the Rico indictment against the Hoover criminals gang and a blood dude for trafficking, including trafficking of minors. I'm not reading every word of the paperwork. I've just pointed out some of the lowlights. Defendant Young trafficked victim 12, a then 17-year-old girl, through force, fraud, and coercion. Traffic victim 13. Mind you, in this indictment, I'll keep scrolling down. Oh, here's the act. Through coded messages on Instagram, victim 13 confronted defendant Young about pimping minors. Defendant Young did not deny pimping minors and instead taunted victim 13, noting that he made $2,500 from victim 12's sex work. Defendant Young repeatedly told victim 13 she was worthless and could not make nearly as much money as his other workers, including victim 12. He further taunted her, asserting that victim 12 made him enough money to get multiple cars, and instructed victim 13, keep up, bitch. He wrote that she was pressured up to make more money because defendant Young impregnated victim 12, and thus victim 12 would eventually need to take leave from commercial sex work. Defendant Young sex trafficked victim 14, a then 15-year-old girl, and produced child sexual abuse material of her. So if you hear anybody talking about free these dudes, this is what when you say free them, this is what you're trying to free. You want people like this running around your communities. Oh man, not this time. Not this time. Not this time at all. Like, and I give Brazy credit too. Because in his video, he talks about an incident where he was in the streets. And he was like, man, I walked into a room and I'm paraphrasing, but basically he had two of his homeboys in there and they had a female in there who was not 14, but a female in there against her will, talking about choose up. And he told them, cut that girl loose and don't ever do that shit again. We need more people in the streets to stop this behavior. Like, it's not enough, oh, you'll get blasted when you go to prison. Okay, by the time they go to prison, they got victims. We need people in the streets shutting this shit down. Like this little house of hotties and fucking sluts in these other places, man, shut that shit down. No. Ain't. No. And listen, I'm all for women's empowerment and grown men, grown women and men, I guess, but grown women having autonomy over their bodies. I think sex work is degrading work. I think walking around on the streets and serving to pleasure dudes and then giving all that money up to a dude, and I just don't think it makes any fucking sense at all. I'm not putting down the women who engage in it. I get that there's a lot of different factors. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, and obviously a lot of these women come from troubled backgrounds. But as a man, though, I'm less concerned about the women. I don't care if women want to hoe. I don't. That's not my business. But as a man, I ain't doing none of that pimping shit around me. Like, we need to shut that shit down. In our communities, and instead of celebrating it, right? Like, all this. Oh, bro, it's AOB all on a bitch. You know what I'm saying? No, stop it. Stop it. That's not impressive. You're not fancy. It is still tricking if you got it, by the way. Like it I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm just old, you know? Not only because my body hurts, but my mindset. But even when I was young, I wasn't into this shit. I mean, I'm not saying that I was polite and faithful to the girls I interacted with as a teenager. I didn't fucking beat them. I didn't try to put them on the blade, you know? But like there's chauvinism, and then there's this. And this is too much. So defendant Young trafficked a 15-year-old girl and produced child sexual abuse material of her. And calling yourself a pimp and posting on social media does not make this behavior okay. So he produced, I'm not even gonna get it. He made her do stuff to him and he did stuff to her and he filmed it. That's what it comes down to. I'm not reading every fucking word of that shit. Defendant Harris trafficked the victim who was 17 years old. And she was branded with a tattoo of his first name on her buttocks. She was also branded with a tattoo on her face of the first letter of Harris's name, which is an N, and a crown, which represented that defendant Harris was her pimp. Defendant Harris and a sex trafficking victim 15, who was 17 years old at the time, appeared in a video filmed in a hotel room. Harris has a stack of money in his hand. Victim 15 states she has $370 and needs 4 more commercial dates to get where she needs to go. He says, nah, you need a band. I don't. So he's continuing trafficking victim 15 and adults. It goes on. Look at this. Over Acts 252. I've seen a lot of federal indictments in my life. I've never seen one with 250 over acts. And I've seen indictments where there's 30 people indicted, 35 people indicted. And you don't see all these over acts. And these over acts read like a list of shit that you pray never happens to any women in your life or that you know. This is the assaults, right? So they beating people up and filming it and putting it on camera. And like I said earlier, if you guys have tuned in late, all you people that think that shit is cute and it makes you look tough, when law enforcement gets a hold of those videos, they frame it in a different light. People are talking about selling drugs and selling drugs on there. The federal government prosecutes the whole interstate stuff and minors and everything very seriously. Like these dudes is they're going to get a boatload of time, right? Defendant Robinson said, I'm just randomly picking shit now. Defendant Robinson sent Defendant Armstead screenshots of coded messages. Here. Wait, no, not that. This is what I'm reading. Defendant Robinson sent Defendant Armstead screenshots of coded text messages between Defendant Robinson and an unknown sex worker in which the sex worker asked Defendant Robinson to leave her alone since he had new sex workers. In the messages with the sex worker, Robinson threatened that he and another person would physically assault the sex worker. 3 days later, he told victim number 10 he was going to instruct her on how to conduct herself once she recovered from an injury. Oh, there was one in here, man, where like he beat a girl. What was it? He beat this girl because she said she was pregnant and then she was bleeding. He wouldn't take her to the hospital. Like, there's just, yeah, let's see. November 30th, using coded language on Instagram, Evans told an unidentified person that his sex worker was stabbed by another sex worker who was drunk and he wanted revenge. Evans and the unidentified co-conspirator discussed whether defendant Evans exacting revenge would cause strife within the Hoover gang. The other user reminded defendant Evans that ain't nobody bigger than the program, referring to the Hoovers. Evans expressed frustration that he let his sex worker get threatened and did not retaliate for the bigger cause of the set. So this dude's taking all this money from these women and promising them protection And his own homeboys, workers, right? His homeboys, slaves that are out there, because that's what these girls are. His homeboys, slaves that's out there, stabs one of his slaves, and he can't even do shit about it because it's all for the set. Get the fuck out of here. Like, it's all a scam. It's all a fucking scam. And these are real life women, man. And there's young men. And these dudes probably grew up seeing men in their life, right? These men that are engaged in this behavior probably saw other men behaving this way, so it was normalized for them. No excuses. No excuses, no passes. You're old enough to know better. However, trying to be mindful of the dynamics, allowing these dudes to do this, they're creating another generation of people that are going to think that this behavior is normal. That think that women walking down the street are only property to be owned and for your needs and for your finances. And that mindset is perpetuated because folks ain't stopping it, right? And I'm not suggesting that everybody from Hoover thinks that this behavior is okay or that they knew what was going on or nothing else. But for these individuals in this indictment and anybody who stands by them or wants to make any excuses for what they do, nah, man, fuck you, in a real way. Um, it is not acceptable. Uh, and at some point, this shit gotta stop. Defendant Harris sex trafficked victim 17, a then 16-year-old girl, and there's been other 16-year-old girls and 17s and 14s throughout this indictment. Notice that each victim has their own number, right? So this is not a repeat. This victim, the 16-year-old, is not like the other 16-year-old victim that we talked about, or the other 17-year-old that we talked about. And all total, there's over 20 victims that are in this case. He produced child porn with the 16-year-old and then gave her a fake identification card and transported her around the country for sex trafficking. So in or around September 24th until at least February 2025, Harris engaged victim 17, a then 16-year-old girl, in commercial sex, including by grooming and recruiting her for commercial sex work, promising to buy her clothing, pay for beauty treatments, and buy anything she wanted if she worked for him, and teaching him the rules of commercial sex work. She was given a fake ID that says she was born in 99. She used that to rent hotel rooms, Airbnbs, and cars anytime the production was required. She was required to work 7 days a week at a quota of $1,500 to $2,000 a day for work. During this period, she made approximately $14,000 per week for sex work and gave all of the earnings to defendant Harris. He put her at the Stadium Inn, transported her to Phoenix, Arizona 4 times, took her to different states for commercial sex work, put her on blades in LA, San Diego, Phoenix, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado. Dictated what prices, had her selling drugs, had her taking drugs, took all her money, of course. It's sad, man. These are children. These are children. While in custody, defendant Harris worked with the unindicted co-conspirator to continue trafficking his victims. So in March, this dude was arrested in Nebraska on charges related to sex trafficking that minor. And then while in Nebraska, he worked with somebody else to keep running them girls. I'm curious to see what Back on Fig says about this. Yeah, me too. Me too, Farmetto. The dark side of tricking your pickle. Yeah, that's the thing too. These dudes is out of pocket, but so are you motherfuckers that drive down the road picking these broads up or going to these truck stops or the Blade or wherever the fuck you go. Like, and you can see in here, if you read it all, right, there's tons of instances of these girls robbing these dudes, and they're highly motivated because they get the shit beat out of them and treated worse than animals if they don't produce money. So they're brainwashed into thinking that these pimps are their heroes, and they will risk their life to take your shit. If you're a trick, they will risk their life to take your shit to make them happy. And you being a trick in that situation or helping to facilitate that, right? If I understand prostitution's the oldest profession and all that other shit and whatever, but I don't know, man, this is out of pocket. It's out of pocket. From March 2025 till March, also in the span of 4 days, while Harris was in custody in Nebraska for trafficking, he continued trafficking. I just kind of told you guys about that, but defendant Israel used victim by straw. Yeah, so he had this girl buying straw purchases of guns. She's listed later. Just another dude showing off his shit that he got off a girl. Um, so enterprise members distributed drugs, sex trafficked minors through force, fraud, and coercion, assaulted and robbed victims through son trafficking recruitment efforts. Yeah, so when they tried to recruit girls, one of the big things they would do is invite girls down to Fig, right? They'd send Ubers to girls, or they would be in other states and they talk to girls on social media, or they'd have the girls talk to other girls on Instagram and pop at them and entice them. Hey, meet me over here. Once you meet them over there, that's a wrap. You're gonna work for that dude, or you're gonna get the shit beat out of you and work for that dude. You know, that's how it's gonna go, and it's dangerous. You know, you catch a kid who is in a broken home, or a kid where these boys are popping at her in school, and then somebody gets on there and is like, man, why you letting these high school kids pop at you for free? Bitch, you could be making money, come out here. And they don't know no better, right? They're kids. And oh shit, man, look at this dude. He got all his jewelry and his money. Like, I'm gonna get on like him. And in a moment of weakness, they can make a decision that radically transforms their life. Uh, and that's somebody's uncle's paying for these kids, right? Right. It's and so, there's responsibility to be had all the way around, man. All the way around. Um, like I said, this goes on and on. We're at over Act 372. And this isn't like a lot of indictments where there's overt acts of like a phone call. These overt acts are pretty are pretty consequential, if you will. Um uh they threaten people's families. I did a story about a girl who got killed in Reno, and she wound up getting shot in the head in a hotel room, and her body was placed in a duffel bag and thrown on the side of the road. And the dude who did it was actually a rat from a Rico case in Northern California years prior. And he came out to Nevada to hide out and pretend like he was still a gangster. Piece of shit ass fucking dude. He was a piece of shit when he told on everybody in South San Francisco. He's a piece of shit still. Now he's a piece of shit doing a life sentence in Nevada. But he got this girl, man. She was like 18. And he popped at her. She had a couple kids. She had some rough spots in her life. But he got a hold of where her family lived and threatened to kill her family and everything else. So she was scared, threatened to kill her kids. Like, the levels that some of these people will go to is insane, you know? Um and yeah, it's wild. So these things go on and on. Like I said, this one, Brooks drove victim 21 from LA to Riverside with the victim in the trunk of his car the entire time. And upon arriving at a home in Riverside, he beat the victim. From December 2024 till at least April 2025, he took the victim to Riverside, California more than 15 different times, beat her before locking her in a bedroom that had no escape route, right? Oh, this is the violent dude. He kicked victim 21 in the stomach 1 week after victim 21 told defendant Brooks that she was pregnant with his child. Same month, he refused to take her to the hospital when she bled profusely from her vagina days after he kicked her in the stomach. From February to April, he provided drugs to victim 21, including oxys, codeine, promethazine, and cocaine to keep her awake and warm while working long hours as a sex worker on a street corner in order to prolong her ability to engage in the acts. And then he stabbed her in the leg with a pair of scissors. And then he shot at her. And then he shot at her again. And then April 2025, he punched her so hard she flew back off her feet onto the ground, causing road rash. Then he took her to an isolated place and beat her so badly she thought she was going to die. Then he hit her in the mouth and broke her tooth. young sex trafficker victim who was then 16 years old. 16-year-old girl about her friends. Like, trafficked the 18-year-old. Forced her to do things. Like, this is rape. This is rape. This is sex offenses. That's what all this is. This is not pimping in the sense that these dudes want to make it sound like music. This is not girls choosing up. This is abusive ass dudes of violating young girls who could just as easily be your fucking relative. And just, it's unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to everybody. Um, I am normally the guy who is on the side of the defendants, right? Like, I try to help defendants in cases. I am empathetic to violence. I'm empathetic to the factors that lead us to make poor decisions, and I think we should be held accountable for those decisions. But I also believe in second chances. All of that goes out the window when you're talking about men abusing children. In my book, that all goes out the window, and period. Full stop. It goes out the window, um, and it's unacceptable. So now they just go and they point out different defendants and all the crazy shit that they did. I'm gonna show you guys this chart in a second. When I get down here, this is just hundreds of pages of abuse. So this is the trafficking of minors within the Central District of California and elsewhere. The defendants listed below, in and affecting interstate commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, and maintained by any means the minor listed below, having had a reasonable opportunity to observe the minor, and in knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that the minor had not yet attained the age of 18 years, and knowing and in reckless disregard that the minor would be caused to engage in commercial sex act in violation of. So these dudes, and Armstead is the girl, I believe, but victim 7 was a minor, victim 11 is a minor, 12 is a minor, 15 is a minor, 14 is a minor, 21 is a minor, 17 is a minor, 20 is a minor. And these dudes, Young, Harris, Brooks, Armstead, and Robinson, are accused of trafficking in minors. And that's a problem, period. These dudes are trafficking by force and fraud, right? But adults. Harris transported a minor out of state for the purposes of that activity. And now, like I said, they go through, it goes on and on and on, on and on and on. All these counts, all these details, but you guys got the gist of it by now. And that is 155 pages of filthy activities by these Hoover dudes and the Hoover chick, Lady Duck, and this PK dude, Darrell Robinson. So I say that rapper dude, the pictures of the guys that are on the front of this thumbnail are guys that are accused of dealing with minors. And that's why I put them on there. Some of these dudes are accused of just doing stuff with women, right? And I still say it's abusive. I still say it's wrong. I still say all that. And if you, the reason I say fuck all these dudes is because they all knew what each other's doing. They're all working together. They're all in cahoots. And so you are out of pocket. If you rock with somebody that pimps 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, I think if you rock with a pimp, you're fucking weird. But if you rock with somebody who pimps children, you are co-signing sex offenses. You, in my book, are a sex offender because you're actively working hand in hand with somebody who is doing this to children. And I just believe that that's not okay. And I think most people watching would agree. So I have heard little parts and clips where people are trying to explain away, and maybe it ain't this and maybe it ain't that, and let's wait for the facts to come out. Listen, man, this indictment is very specific. These victims are telling their story. Are some of them maybe lying about certain things? Maybe. Certain particulars. But you put yourself in that position when you're trafficking them. So No, and I'm not saying that they are, that any of the women did lie at all. But I'm just saying, even if somebody wants to argue, oh, that's just because that's Victim 21's story, but you don't know the full story. I give a fuck what the full story is. If the story involves you pimping a minor, end of conversation. There is no story, right? The next story should be your obituary, flat out. And that's the only story I want to hear. Um, so there you have it. Inside look at the pimp game. Sir, this indictment is about the cats from Hoover. Um, but I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. I know cats from the city that was pimping and got indicted. And I don't know them like they were my homeboys or nothing, but I'm aware of their existence. And this could just as easily be their indictment, right? Um, so people that are pimping in the East Coast, people that are pimping in Kansas, like this is the pimp game right here in this indictment. And you can't convince me otherwise. Corey, two S's, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. I appreciate your generosity and the support. Um, so if you support this, if you support music that's talking about pimping, no, I give a fuck how good the beat sounds. Um, you're putting money in the pockets of dudes that treat women like this. And yeah, it's all bad. So there you have it, man. I'm gonna get off of this and spend time with my children, right? With my daughter. Um, yeah, Frisco has some pimping going on. We had like the old Fillmore Slim, that era of pimping. I don't think it was quite the same as what this is, but maybe it was. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I was never really fascinated with the pimp shit. I seen it around when I was younger, and I just never it never impressed me. Again, I feel like them dudes are soft. It's the pimps I know of. Like you could sock a pimp in the mouth. He ain't gonna do nothing about it. You know, it's because he don't want to go to jail. He don't want to leave the streets because he's making money on the streets. He go to jail, he loses his girls. So he don't want to go to jail. He don't want to break the law. He ain't tripping. To him, it's just money. Everything's money. Strip him of his jewelry. He'll go work over a female and get more jewelry. Like, so I just don't really respect that type of individual. And to me, again, it's just bum behavior. Like, I'd rather, I don't know, everybody talks about all these welfare moms on EBT and all this other shit. But yeah, you got dudes out here like this. Who's the real bums? You know? Um, I've talked to a Dave, sugar free. See, and I don't even like that beat. Like I've heard sugar free. I'm not even really feeling the music, right? At least we're moving in the right direction. Late 80s, we prosecuted kids for soliciting. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I'm glad. And did some of these women, were some of these women adults who signed up for this lifestyle? Yes, absolutely. Are they still victims? I think so. In my mind, they are, but I understand that an argument can be made that they're not because they're grown women. Um, GS, shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. Um, anybody who wants this, email me, Joshua at thehomiehangout.com. And I'll email it to you. It's a pretty big file, but I'll email it to you. And I'll take all my highlighting off before I send it. As a matter of fact, too, if you're on my Patreon, which I don't really do shit for my Patreon, I'm gonna go post it on my Patreon. So if you happen to be on my Patreon, you'll be able to see it there. But all right, you guys, man, I gotta get shit to, I got shit I gotta do. But help us move with exercise with homies too. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. And don't support this shit, man. And if you do, stay away from my channel. Really, that's what it comes down to. And for sure, stay away from the people in my life.